Come on, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. How's it going? Holy smokes. It's Sunday. We are live for our Sunday chat. Joining me are Damien, Sleepy Reader, and of course, Rasa of the La Rasa YouTube channel. Welcome. Nice to see you both.
Great to be here.
What's going on?
I don't know what I'm doing here. I should go.
Yeah. Yeah, so today's our float and chat. It's my turn. We were hoping to have a guest, but unfortunately he couldn't make it this time. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And then just to kind of throw it out as we do, I mean, if you want to get in touch with us, if you're interested, obviously there's not a blank check that we're going to sign to get you on, but reach out to us if you're curious or if you want to hang out on one of these chats. We'd love to talk to all sorts of people on these floating streams here.
Right, especially regular viewers or regular commenters particularly.
Absolutely, 100%. Regular viewers and regular commentary people are they move to the top of the line for sure. They get that bump up, they get that added bump. So what's happening?
What's happening? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, anything?
I've been watching lots of Comic Crack videos and being jealous of your incredible finds.
That's why I think I'm going to stop watching Crack's videos as well.
I was so happy to get this one issue of Yummy Fur for $2.25, and then you get a whole stack for 60 cents a piece.
Honestly, that was an anomaly for us though. Like as much as that's Canadian, that doesn't pop up nearly as much as you'd think it would around here. It does. There's a couple of issues usually, but I find I tend to see the same few issues. This was the first time in a while I've seen such a huge stack of them and so many that I didn't need. It was a real, my eyes kind of bugged out of my head when I flipped into those in the bin there.
I'm guessing at least here, the later drawn and quarterly ones are easier to find.
Possibly just because
those are the ones I've found so far.
Yeah. That would make sense.
This anomaly you keep on talking about happens way too often for it to be an anomaly, to be honest.
Well, was this out of the box that someone had set aside for you?
Yeah, this was out of the box that someone set aside for me. So
the amazing thing there is he knew you would like those comics and he left the price at 60 cents a piece.
Yeah. And I mean, that's because we've had a good relationship over the years. Like I've sold him stuff and given him deals and vice versa. And because I mean, his biggest thing is if he knows you're not going to flip it, if he knows you're not just buying a bunch of stuff to then immediately turn around and sell, he's more willing, like most of us, more willing to give a deal, right? Like, and he knows that I'm a huge reader. He's watched the channel in the past. He knows that I love this stuff. And he also knows that I'm one of the only guys in town that's going to buy it. So he's already made his money back on the stuff anyway. So he can afford to kind of get rid of some of this stuff cheaper, which is great. And again,
it seems like he could have sold them to you for $1 a piece and it would have been
I still would have bought them. Yeah, I still would have bought them for, even if it was, honestly, even if they were $2 a piece, I still would have bought them. You know what I mean? Just because they were such a good chunk to fill in the gaps, right? So
well, let's hope he's not watching your videos because then he's gonna realize, gee, dude, this wants to mob to pay, so I'll charge him for it.
He said it this time.
I have it on your videos.
I had told him with the last kind of box of comics that I bought, there was a bunch of air sell. And I told him that I traded with a friend, traded with Lone Star down in the States, and I had also sold some to a friend of mine in the States, Colin, in that case. And he was kind of like, maybe I should start charging him. I'm like, no. I sold them for the exact same price that I bought them at, and the trade, it worked out to pretty much the same price as what I bought them. So trust me, I wasn't making any money off the box of smut. Don't stop holding a box of smut for me. Hello, Andrew Lopez.
But don't you think it's kind of weird now these days when the comic book sellers are caring not about the sales, but then make sure that not other people will get higher price to what they sell? This is kind of bonkers to me.
It's kind of the psychology of it, isn't it? It's not a rational thing.
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot because especially, well, I mean, obviously I can only speak here, but that happens a lot here. People looking to make money off of your stuff. You know what I mean? Right. So, which is why when I was selling that collection, I had a whole dollar sale outside of my house there. And everybody was coming up and saying, oh, you have some minor keys. I'm like, great, buy them, take advantage of me. Like buy them. They're $1 a piece. Flip them for $5 or $10. I don't care. I just need them gone. Right. So in those cases, like there is that kind of game that does happen with people flipping the books that they buy from you for cheap. So, and especially, I mean, this isn't how this guy makes his money. It's not his main business, but I mean, he's got a space in the flea market, which isn't cheap these days. The price has gone up a little bit. So, but again, it's the beauty of knowing people for a long time. I've known him for years now. So he's more than willing to kind of talk deals.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, as a seller, I mean, really, you should just price things at what you think you want to make.
Right.
And not worry about, what other people are going to make off of it, because
see-
you're still getting what you want. But there is that psychology of like, if they're going to make more money off me, then I don't want to sell them to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they'd rather make the money, right? Like, selling a $5 book that someone makes 25. Hell, man, I'd rather make 20, than the 5, right? So, because that's going to keep you buying more. But he's also it seems like he's got a few connections with comics coming in too, because there was quite a few new boxes that I hadn't seen before. Maybe like, I don't know, I want to say like 10, 12 new long boxes, like mostly filled with stuff I'm not super interested in, but within those, and they're all unorganized, which I love as well too. So you really have to flip through them. I spent a good hour flipping through boxes. It was super fun, and just shooting the shit like what you do, right? You hang out, chat, tell stories, flip through books. It's super great.
They should have some special chair for us older parts who with our knees not working as well as before. Like you crouch and then you're like, oh my god, why my knees are like screaming at me? Stand up now.
To bring my own little mini stool with me to sit on.
He actually has everything on tables, and he actually does have a chair too. There is a chair, so if you really needed to, you could sit and you could flip through the boxes. But everything is like standing height, so it's perfect. He's got a really nice setup. I'll take some photos next time I'm there and share them with you guys.
No, he's keeping you really cozy. Make sure that you buy from things from him. Yeah, I see that's 100%. How it works. You see, work psychology. Yeah, you can feel comfortable. Look at those nice, neat boxes for you just to come rummage around and find the deals.
Yep. And that's exactly what he does. He sets everything up. Lids are off. Everything is accessible because he doesn't want that, like you want to get people in there. And he's also dealing with a bit of a smaller space there too. So he has to really utilize that really well. I was kind of shoulder to shoulder with a couple of guys, even though there was a tiny bit of space, right? But Anyway, the beauty of flea markets. You got to love them.
You have them around,
When you have them, 100%. I imagine it's kind of like your Comic Mart in London there, Rossa. I get the sense that it's probably kind of like that mix of mini convention / flea market, right?
Oh yeah. It's just the tables, like your typical tables you have, and everybody puts the boxes on top of it, and then you have this like, all of them are scattered around the walls, and you go around them, and some of them in the middle, especially for the bigger sellers. There's bigger sellers, of course, there in the mingle, right? Because somebody wants to get rid of those keys, and there's like walls scattered with all that beautiful things. I haven't been there so long. I actually kind of really would like to go, but London is becoming kind of like really difficult to travel, especially.
Oh, really?
Well, it becomes like an effort now. Trains doesn't work properly because we have this crazy strikes and stuff like that, and it just closes down the places. So you want they want you to be more greener, when you travel. So use only public transportation or use your own cars. But then they do this train, which I understand for the workers and all that stuff, but then prevents people from actually entering properly. Now they're charging differently. They're charging now more when you used to be. It depends what kind of vehicle you have. They don't even want like cars now. There's something I heard London wants to get rid of as well. So this kind of effort you make, especially a person who's not living in London, it's a bit of a chore, like you have to pre-plan everything, completely know exactly. And having a child is not something you can do as easily as it used to be before.
Right.
So I mean, traveling isn't bad. It's not far away, but that's all kind of those stumbles makes me kind of like iffy or thinking of even going. Although, maybe once in the blue moon I should attend.
Is it like an hour-ish away? How far away are we talking? If you were to drive?
Yeah, 1 hour with minimal traffic. Let's say if you get stuck in traffic, then it becomes a nightmare. Mm-hmm. But if it's minimal, it's 1 hour drive, which is nothing compared to the distances.
Well, and is parking in London, that might be difficult or expensive.
Yeah, that's where everything, it just cuts off to the point. It used to be Sundays available for you to get entered, and they used to do those Sundays, those shows most of the time anyway. And that was the beauty of it. You could just go in there on Sundays because there's not many people on Sundays usually. People get out of London rather than come in London. Mm-hmm. And that was the easiest part. We could go in there, be there for like 1 or 2 hours for me to go rummage around. if we wanted to stroll around in London City, like we could do that as well, and then fuck off and go, and easily, you know what I mean? But now, like, what I'm saying is, I understand they need to do that kind of thing and all that stuff, but then in London in generally is already a city like capital like this. It's absolutely crazy.
Right.
And traffic is just unpredictable and never know what will happen. So just, you know, it's an effort, you know, like you have to basically make it a trip, like where you like visiting something like a city or something like that. So, and, you know, like, as I say, it's just that kind of effort makes me sometimes double think if I want to attempt it, because Sundays, especially before the school day now. So all that kind of thing comes in play. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. What about you, Damien? Do you have flea markets and stuff? I know you have tons of comic shops already, but
right. If we have flea markets, I don't know about it, but we do have this Frankenstein comic book swap, which just started up again, and it's basically a giant comic book flea market.
Nice. Yeah.
Because it says swap, but it's not. People pay $45 now for a table. It used to be $20.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And so, but they now have it in a much bigger space. It just started up again after COVID. And I went, and I couldn't find any cool stuff.
Okay.
And like there were some tables set up by some of the shops that I go to, and they had their more expensive stuff there. And I'm like, I could go to your shop where I don't have to pay a $1 entrance fee.
Right.
And get the comics I want there.
That's super surprising. I would have thought your city, especially, though, those kind of things would be where you'd find a lot of the oddball stuff.
Right.
You know?
Well, maybe it varies, you know, month to month, but everything was very Marvel and DC, mostly Bronze Age and more recent. And then people charging a lot of money for anything that was any good.
Right.
So people were hoping to make money rather than, I was hoping for more of these people who just, you know, like I want to do eventually, you know, I want to get rid of 3,000 of my comics. So here's some 50-cent boxes or dollar boxes.
Oh man,
but there wasn't a lot of that. But it used to be like that. So I don't know. And someone pointed out that there, because there hasn't been one of these in 2.5 years because of COVID, that a lot of people would have a lot of stuff built up they want to sell. But I think because prices went up so much in COVID, everyone is hoping to make money now, even though really prices are dipping back down.
They totally are. Yeah.
It's going to take a while for some people to face that reality.
Yeah, absolutely. As is the way. And I think that's the big thing with Dan too. Like when he buys these collections, he knows which ones are going to be the big ticket items. He gets those ones, sells those for a really nice price and makes his money back. And then the rest is kind of like, I got to move this stuff. Like I got more boxes. I got to move this stuff. 50 cents, $1, take it, you know, because that many boxes, you gotta move things out. You gotta blow them out at some point.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'll go back. They only do it every 3 months actually. So I'll go back the next time and see if it got better. And I, you know, afterwards I went out to lunch with a few of the comic book people. So that was good.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And that's also what's so fun about those things, hanging out and chatting with people and stuff. Right. So cool. Rasa, do you want to start us off this week with something you've read?
How dare you put me on the spotlight. I haven't read that much, although because it's a bigger content. Like I read graphic novels, it's easier to read single issues.
Yeah.
But then you start reading graphic novels, it's not so easy to choke them inside the information box. But this is a surprise for me. So it's library.
I read that with my daughter when it came out originally.
So this is the second volume in sort of ways, or third volume actually. No, second volume, because the G. Willow Wilson has done A-Force before this story as well, which is kind of like makes it, you know, like confusing.
Have you read the one before though?
No, that's the thing.
Let me tell you. Just sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
The one before. You probably don't remember when they did Secret Wars with Jonathan Hickman. And they did a bunch of miniseries set on the world of Secret Wars.
Right.
The first A-Force was that. So what you have is the first volume in the real Marvel universe.
So that it's I
that's all I want to say.
I knew that. I was doing research afterwards because I really enjoyed actually G. Willow Wilson's writing in this one.
The first volume is good too.
Yeah, Kelly Thompson was writing down. So the first volume, what Sleepy was talking about, because there was this Victor Von Doom world, which was people were divided in everywhere, and he was in charge of everybody, as far as what researcher was doing. And this one is like in the real world happening, and then we have this members or team members who really in this issue, particularly in Hyper Time, was just coming back to be one, as called A-Force. So yeah, it's absolutely a fantastic a little story of an event in space where singularity and antimatter has came through, and the team, like Captain Marvel in her, apparently she's an alpha flights leader in space station, or she's in charge basically of the whole space. And this actually, I was thinking, oh my god, they're gonna introduce one of those what are those super gods, what do they call the specific word, I forgot.
Celestials?
Yes. So I was thinking, because all those, like, it just mimics that, and I was like, oh my god, they're gonna do celestials. But no, it was a singularity who apparently was part of the team in that previous iteration of A-Force, where they had been as a team and they were defending a town and everything else. So anyway, so they having to understand what's happening in space. They're doing some investigations, and of course Captain Marvel got injured a little bit, but of course with her powers, she gets kind of like healed once again. I don't really, I kind of sometimes confuse Captain Marvel. I read some of the earlier iterations of Captain Marvel, because there was a male, there's a female, and then I know she's like a supernova star, but is she like, she can resurrect herself or she can heal herself? I don't know exactly that.
I never knew that before, so.
Yeah, so in this one, she kind of gets hurt, but then apparently the way she was hurt, she got better. They don't really explain that part of it. I guess you have to go into, and that's one of the nice covers apparently of the female, of the females in here, which I really like. And then here, it's in a wise way to explain to you the Medusa, She-Hulk, the Singularity Girl, which is with this girl here, Captain Marvel. Nico Minoru, this one is the character I'm not well aware of whatsoever. It's a new, I think, Marvel or wherever Marvel universes or
yeah, I wasn't sure where she came from either. She's
part of the Grimm magicians. Anyway, and then this is new iteration of how Dazzler is going to look in here, with this like more like, different street cred and stuff like that. But anyway, so she appears in here and she remembers the past life, that previous story that was written. And then they explains to you. Yeah, lovely cut loss, by the way. But it's kind of a little bit good because you can like really stretch it out, but it's kind of, hate that part of the graphic novels. And then she comes in and she starts like, she gets really excited because she sees her team members, or she's not aware of, she's actually where she's at and which timeline she's on. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Thanks, Rick Ray. Yeah, Nico Minaro is from BK, the Runaways run. Yeah. So she's a magician. She has this staff of this circular hole, and she makes spells. And she will be part of this quite effortlessly. But anyway, in saying this is absolutely fantastic little story. It shows you a little bit more about She-Hulk, because I've been watching She-Hulk series. Kind of that is more interesting for me with her. Also, the Medusa I like because of the Inhuman, and her ability with the hair is absolutely particularly fantastic. I didn't know that she was like, I think because there's an event, of course, happening while this was written, that Inhumans and X-Men were kind of like in not really in good faith with each other, and Inhumans took part of the New York, apparently, but I'm not really certain as well. But anyway, so it's really well written. The story went really well. You understood the characters, because kind of endearing, quite bitchy at times, because they were not team. They've never been together before. But with that singularity part of them and putting them, kind of meshing them together, really worked. And yeah, it was a little fun. And this is that's the girl I was talking about, the staff. That's the Nico Miraro. So she's actually fascinating, that magic part element, because imagine she would be, I don't know if they have already included her with Doctor Strange because of the magic part, but that would be interesting if they could involve her in the story with him as well. But anyway, so Absolutely great. Of course, they defeated the villain here. And also what surprises me in this one, which I have already, but if you haven't, this is the first time I have not seen in a like a graphic novel. First appearance.
Reprint. Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Which is appearance of Valkyrie?
No, Lady Liberators and Valkyrie as well, by the way. So yeah, it's a I actually have this actual issue. It's still the one which I'm really happy. So I didn't read this one. It's really good, but I was so surprised to see actual reprint in the graph. This is really good.
Great idea.
Introduce to people to what used to be or in the history of Marvel. And they also included a story of that world with this team prior to the story as well. So it was like a little one, and that's how I knew about the Victor Von Doom and this little place where She-Hulk was in charge, or she was working for Victor Von Doom, kind of thing. And then how they one discretion can't banish people, and also they had the Loki female, which I wouldn't probably, if I can see it, if library has it, I'm definitely gonna go and look at it, because Loki female would be interesting to basically read about as well. But yeah, it's very good read, very surprisingly entertaining. Yet I wasn't as lost as I was thinking I would be. All those things they were talking about kind of confusing me a little bit, but they were trying to really explain to it in this one. And I think there's another volume after this, which I would definitely want to read if I have a chance to do so. And
it probably went for 8 or 9 issues before they canceled it. We were really sad when they canceled it. It was like the one Marvel comic that me and my daughter were enjoying together.
I bet, because that would be, I would have said if you would haven't read this, it would be really great for your daughter, because it's just all those females doing their own thing, and then, just really well introducing to them. And also that scientist friend, was it Wilson? What's her surname? She's very clever. The clever of them all. This one. She actually had Captain Marvel abilities somewhere. But then in here she doesn't. So I don't know where, kind of confusing in that sense, when you have to follow Marvel's idea of continuity or their universes and stuff, and especially when they're doing those events.
Was that Monica Rambeau?
Yeah.
So in the
maybe not
late 70s or early 80s, there was a African American Captain America, Monica Rambeau, who then then they gave her a different name. She continued on as a superhero for a while and gave her a different name.
I think that's the different name now, because she looks
in the Captain Marvel movie. Her mother is like a friend with Carol Danvers.
Yes,
and Monica Rambeau is there as a teenager or a young girl or something. I assume they're going to bring her on as a main character later.
Yeah.
But you never know.
They're calling her Doctor most of the time. So I don't know her name now. I can't. Of course, when you are talking, don't remember. I can't see it. That's the right panel. Anyway, very good. Very surprisingly entertaining Marvel graphic novel. I picked up,
cool.
And I knew about it. It's all females. I took a fancy. It's not a long read, but it wasn't disappointing, which is exactly what I wanted. Like sometimes I need to see, or at least to have a feel of what's happening in Marvel Universe these days. And sometimes when you read in the whole chunk, it's much easier to realize what their goal is and how we do it. But all those cancellations, I don't think really helpful, but it's just the way they do the business.
It's too bad they didn't let it go a little longer. Might have built up a following.
I think if your comic book doesn't sell in singles, maybe Marvel should consider having them in graphic novel sections. Put them in the chunk and see if that's going to work out. I think that would be even much better, because then the girls who are reading them, especially like your daughter, would have like, if I can't have in singles, then I can have them in like in a chunk, which would be fantastic, I think.
Or other girls, unlike my daughter, who don't have a father obsessed by comics,
right.
might have discovered it later in the library, but it was too late for the series to continue.
Yeah, but G. Willow Wilson is definitely a great writer. It's very likable characters, very easier to understand her scientific methods of, like space and that part of it, even though they say like, I'm going to give you layman terms so you guys could understand and stuff like that, which is what's great, exactly what you I felt that you should have.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm surprised they don't do that more. Doing, like you were saying, doing the reprints in the back, throw in
That's
an older story that
absolutely
somehow
fantastic.
relates. I think that's kind of great.
You know, imagine you have a or Doctor Strange, the new version, or you have now female Doctor Strange, yes, because the Doctor Strange in this universe now is kaput, even though it's gonna survive sooner or later.
Yeah.
But then you could have hers first, Chloe. What is her name?
Clea.
Clea.
Yeah.
I want to say Chloe. I don't know. Clea. So Clea's first appearance would be absolutely fantastic in those. It's
For
a
sure.
great
Especially because
introduction.
they were only half of an issue of Strange Tales anyway, so you're not including a full old issue.
Right,
You're just
right.
including like a shorter story as kind of like a
Exactly.
bumper or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but that was very surprising and very cool. I felt it's
Next month, speaking of
good
Doctor
paper.
Strange, next month it's
What?
coming.
What?
Trad Moore's Doctor Strange miniseries starts next month.
Oh, I got to make sure not to miss that.
Yeah, me as
I'm
well.
definitely gonna pick up an issue 1 probably, but I always don't want to pick the whole thing because of Marvel. I don't. Just too much price for me for a
Right.
single comic, and they don't give you much really.
Hello, Miss Soap. Hello, Chaos and Comics. Yeah,
And
I
they
don't
published
disagree
his
with you, but I think
Silver
this will be worth it.
They published his Silver Surfer Black in one of those giant
Treasury
size ones. Yeah. So it's tempting to wait and see if they'll do that with the Doctor Strange one.
Just before somebody else talks about comics, probably Damon, have you guys seen the Earl Grey's video of that Tassian's Fantastic Four?
Yes.
I haven't watched it yet, but I've seen it in my feed. I just haven't watched it.
I was hanging on tight to my wallet as I watched.
Because the sheer beauty size of exactly how you want your Kirby's to be looking at.
Right.
And he was like, oh, there's a first Fantastic Four. So the first issue. So you have that all. It looks like the drawn picture, like the page is exactly the size the Kirby was drawing at.
Okay, yeah.
And it looks fantastically made. First of all.
So sorry, is this a reproduction or is this an artist type edition that Tassian has done?
They call it Marvel. What is it, Marvel? Kind of something like specific word. They don't even call it Fantastic Four something. They call it Marvel Masterwork something or something.
But it's not an artist edition, and no. I think it tries to be, even though it's oversized, tries to be truer to the original colors and things like that.
Yeah.
The feel of the paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a Spider-Man one that Earl also did a video about a year or two ago, and I ended up buying that one after his video. But this time,
thank you, Rick Ray.
I'm trying to control myself.
Yeah, and also the covers are glossy paper.
Oh yeah.
So they actually stand out in everything reprinted. Even they reprinted the
ads and stuff.
The ads and stuff like that. So it's like basically reproduction of a comic book in a giant
style.
Oh my god!
And in nice hardcover and really well bound because you will open it up and everything just lay flat. And you're
amazing.
Like, oh. Yeah. So I was like, oh man. No. Oh no.
So I gotta watch that video on the TV, is what you're telling me, as opposed to the computer.
I always do watch it on telly, so that's it's just even like and I said to you, Earl Grey, I mentioned the comment in there saying Kirby's are supposed to be this size. You don't want the shrinkage. You just like because the vastness of all of the stuff he's able to portray in a piece of paper. So
right,
yeah, it's fantastic.
Sweet.
It only sets you back 150 pounds, by the way, or 160 euros, something like that.
Oh, really? Oh,
it's only that, nothing.
My God. So pick up that and the Love and Rockets collection, and you're good for the next 5 years. That's your comic 5 years worth.
Yeah, imagine your budget.
Or 5 months worth, depending on who you are. Yeah.
And I think he's also talked about how I don't know if because they're saying that it's not only one edition, they're gonna continue producing more, and then he says like, okay, I don't know if I have a budget for it.
Wow, yeah.
Because you have to sell a lot of things in order to
right.
Basically, it's not some. I mean, knowing him and what kind of collections he does, I probably can sell them easy. Yeah. I mean, he was mentioning something that he sold that oversized that gigantor of the omnibuses of the Kirby one. Do you remember? Then they came out with all the stuff. The Fourth World, I think that's what it was called. I think, isn't it Damon had one? Damon, you have it.
I'm sorry, I spaced out for a second. The Fourth World Omnibus?
Yeah.
It's just the regular omnibus size.
No, I know, but it's a chunky one, which is impossible to read.
It's way too thick. It's ridiculous. Yeah. They should have split it in 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he was talking about maybe selling.
I kind of regret buying that one, to tell the truth. But
yeah, so Maybe you should sell it, then you can buy Taschen.
Yeah, there you go.
I wish Taschen would do the Fourth World. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But the Fantastic Four is a more marketable thing.
I really like Fantastic Four now. After reading all those those little gold nuggets I find in my
John Byrne
collection.
stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I think that's why you call them that.
Yeah.
I just like the way they are, especially maybe the Byrne ones, because the Sue is treated really well, to be honest. She's
Right.
fantastic.
That was a good innovation that he put in.
Yeah.
The thing about the Taschen, like, I am more interested in the Fantastic Four issues that come after those early ones. The sort of middle Kirby period is where all the masterpieces are, in my opinion. So I think I'll just hold out and hope they do that.
They keep going with it. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I also saw the Spider-Mans you were talking about in this part of the world, at least. I saw them reduced in price, so I don't know how popular they are. But the production value, I mean, if you're a fan,
if you have room in your house too, I mean,
you can't really
the
the
big
size
thing,
of your house.
Right.
Your bookshelf have to be like made of the vibranium to just hold
it. You just need the shrink ray, so you can shrink them down, put them away, and then expand them when you want to read them.
Yeah, where's that Ant-Man when you need him?
That's right. Yeah. The Quantum Verse, apparently. Did you see that trailer? We'll talk about that later. Damien, what do you got? What do you got next for us? Or to start, I guess.
I thought we would look at the Yummy Fur. Can you click on my thing there?
I can. Add to stream. Did that work? Yes, it did.
There you go. Yeah.
Sweet.
I just read this last night. It's hard to know how to talk about it, actually. I don't know if either of you read this particular issue.
Yeah, a long time ago. I've got that one. Yeah, but it's been a while.
I don't know if Terrence, you sent me any Yummy Fur, but I doubt it. But I didn't.
I might have at some point, Rasa.
I think the name is. I mean, I've seen more your videos. I guess that's always recollecting in my brain that maybe I have. But I'm not sure.
I semi agree with what Paolo just said, but I do think the early on in the Fantastic Four, they haven't got the soap opera qualities, the kinks worked out that well at first, and it's hard to say when it starts really clicking. Early on, they start establishing the Marvel Universe, though. The Skrulls appear, Doctor Doom appears. All this stuff is in those early issues. But I would say the soap opera quality, I'm not sure when it really becomes meaningful, but I'd have to look back at all my Fantastic Four to decide.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has two stories in it. One is a slice of life story called Danny's Story. And then the other is a biblical story. Wow. Matthew 8:28 through 9:14.
Yeah.
So in the slice of life is beautifully drawn, but I have to say, my whole problem with autobiography is really triggered by this one.
Right.
Because actually, maybe the art would look better if I propped it up a little bit. So the art is beautiful, but half of the story is just him waking up, listening to the radio, going to the bathroom, picking his nose and eating it, and sniffing his hand.
Dude.
And then his neighbor comes by and tells him a pointless story.
Right.
And so the 2 points I get out of this is he's living the really gross 20-something lifestyle, and that his neighbor's an idiot. So it's just that's one of my problems with autobiography is like you're just portraying other people, not yourself, as idiots.
Right.
So it was a mildly amusing story, and it kind of reminded me of a Harvey Pekar type story. Here's an odd character in the world that I live, and I'm kind of a schlub, only kind of stretched out and elongated, and because Harvey Pekar usually would do something like this in 1 or 2 pages. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think the difference with Chester is eventually he shows all his kind of warts and all, you know what I mean? Like all of these guys, Joe Matt and Chester Brown specifically. I mean, Seth did some autobio stuff, but it had kind of more a sense of wonderment about it,
in the larger context.
Yeah, yeah.
But right here, I mean, even though Chester's kind of scraggly looking, he's kind of handsome and nice looking, and this guy's pretty grotesque. And then at the end, I mean, this is kind of a uncomfortable thing. When he finally closes the door, the guy was telling him a totally pointless story about how he got drunk and didn't meet up with the woman he wanted to hook up with. And then is wanting Chester's advice on whether he should apologize to her or not.
Right.
But then Chester just slams the door on him and bites his hand. And then he says, you know, white man never has respect for the black man. I don't know. It's kind of an odd, like, I really don't know what the point of it is. I enjoyed reading it. So I guess that's the point. But the white black relationship here, is that part of it? I don't know. And so then the Bible thing, I guess, is kind of a smushing together of a bunch of moments in the Bible without the transitionary material. So in one, Jesus sends some demons that are possessing humans into some pigs, and then the pigs run into the water and drown. And then the next thing you know, well, the people who own the pigs are cursing Jesus. I don't know if that happened in the Bible or not. It's been so long since plus most of my knowledge of the Bible is of the New Testament is the sections they would read to us in church a lot.
Right.
And then another one is he is healing someone who's paralyzed or possibly dead. So I don't know what the connecting material. And then there's someone talking about these events and picking his nose and eating the snot in the Bible section. I thought this was kind of cool, and I'm now kind of intrigued about, because I have not read his books with his Bible stories in them.
Yeah, and there's a number of them in a bunch of Yummy Furs as well too. He does it for quite a while.
And how many... Jesus has roughly the same haircut he does. The receding hairline with long hair.
Right.
Although more Semitic looking.
Right.
And I do appreciate that Jesus is not like shown as some, you know, blonde European, Northern European type, but more of a Semitic type. And I really love Chester Brown's art style in both of these.
Yeah, so do I.
At this point, he's like, I don't know. He's almost got a little bit of Will Eisner in him, and yeah. Anyway, combined with another kind of cartooning, it's an interesting mix of a cartoony style and a more realistic style in a really pleasing way. And I love the way he does panels, and
so do I.
And I don't know if he's the first one to always do these black backgrounds, but somehow it just works really well with his artwork.
Especially in some of the issues where you get like kind of 3 panels on a page on a diagonal or something.
Right, I like
sort
that
of overlapping a little bit. It's really a striking image there. It's one of the things that I'm really excited now that I have such a big chunk to read a chunk in a row, just to get into that rhythm
to see
and the
him
flow
explore
of
those layouts and stuff.
Yeah,
this is like a really cool way to opening page with just these 2 irregular panels and all of this black space. So I kind of wish more people would play around with the page the way he does. Anyway, I'm perfectly happy to. So I'm complaining about autobiography. I'm complaining. It's still interesting to read. I just whenever I read autobiography comics, I think about, could I write autobiographical stuff? And then I come up with all these moral dilemmas about it. But,
yeah. And I think that's your and the thing is, you're bang on with some of that stuff, right? Like it does kind of get played out a little. How do I do that? Is that right? Yeah, that's right. It does get kind of played out, you know, and that's one of the things that I noticed in one of the dirty plots, like just her kind of talking about her day. She was taking it to such an extreme though, that it became hilarious, you know, like one of the panels, it says, it literally says for the caption, this lasted for 10 or 15 minutes, and it's her slack-jawed looking straight ahead. So there's stuff like that that's kind of like, it feels like it's making fun of it. Yeah, I did.
I noticed that very panel on Twitter when you posted it.
It's hilarious stuff.
Yeah.
So.
But her most recent book, the one that is like one continuous drawing, have you seen that yet?
I've seen it. I keep seeing it in the bookshop, and I keep putting it back. I really should just pick it up right now.
I got it from the library and read it quite a while ago, and I meant to do a video on it and never did because I got sick. But that is her talking for the entire monologuing for the entire book about this odd little relationship she had. And after a while, you're like, oh, I wish she just did that panel and then she talked for another 20 minutes because she's literally just talking for another.
Just going and going.
Going and going. And it doesn't go anywhere after. Well, you get the point and then you just go on. But anyway, I'm sure that's part of her artistic statement there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I definitely want to find more Yummy Furs. And I've read, the Playboy, and I've read his stuff in his first round of graphic novels back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I've started to reread them, but I really like reading them in this format. So I hope I find a goldmine like you did.
I mean, as much as I love Seth's stuff, and I do really like Seth's stuff, honestly, it's the Joe Matt and Chester Brown stuff that I really like, just that little bit more. And I mean, it's honestly Chester Brown stuff that I have more of than either of those other two guys. I'm a big fan of his. I love his I love his storytelling. I love kind of his boldness, especially in a book like Paying for It. There's this boldness of like just completely. I mean, it's still he's still dealing with a bigger than life version of himself, but the places that he's willing to kind of explore with that, I think is pretty interesting stuff. You know what I mean? Even if it is, well, and I mean, it's not a criticism. Of course, it's going to be a monologue because he's the creator, he's the character. You feel like you're getting his perspective, and you feel like you're getting to know at least a version of himself, even if it is a hyper realistic version of himself or whatever, or extra like Crumb used to do with himself. Take what he likes, take what he is, and then just go step further with it. Right. So yeah, Chester is great. He's got a good storytelling style, I think.
I saw on Twitter, maybe you're going to mention it later, that you had a Bukowski comic book.
Yeah, I got a Bukowski.
And Charles Bukowski in prose is that kind of thing too, right? Yep. This mythological version of himself and all his disgustingness.
Yep.
How is the Ed, the Happy Clown? Is it any good to read as well?
That's actually one I've never read the entire thing of. I have some of the single issues. I know there's a collection. It's not one of the collections I have. The stories that I've read have been good, but honestly, I kind of lean more towards his. Like, I Never Liked You, I thought was great. The Playboy is great. The Little Man is great. Paying for It, I love those ones quite a bit. And those are more kind of focused on him and his life and stories from his life.
Because I saw it collected now while you guys talking about it. Just looked it up online, and you can buy the collected edition like hardcover for really, really, really cheap, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was thinking to ask you about it. So
yeah,
cool.
So I'll jump into this one. Let's start with this one. I'll put this banner up. So Twitter user La Santa Muerte Comics on Twitter had messaged a bunch of people apparently and sent us a stack of, he is a comics creator. He posts a lot of his stuff online. So if you follow him online, you can read his comics there as well. But he sent me a stack of his black and white work, and I read 2 of them. So he sent me 6 different kind of magazine sized and 2 of his characters, the Terror Twins. I read these ones this week. He kind of sent me a letter with everything too, that with some of these stories, one of them specifically, I think maybe this first one here, it was kind of like he set himself a time limit to kind of create something. So he apparently goes really into scripting before he does the book itself, and then tries to set challenges for himself. These so far are an absolute blast. I've liked his stuff on Twitter. I've read it often on Twitter. He's got a really great, that kind of classic indie style that I love. But there's some really fun storytelling. These ones, he claims even himself that these ones are supposed to be over the top. The Santa Muerte series itself is the one that he puts the most time and energy into, like storytelling wise and things like that. But this Terror Twins was specific to just going extreme with these violent twin sisters, and they're an absolute blast. In this one, we also get, let me see if I can find it. We get his kind of Doctor Strange type of character in this one as well too, which is pretty fun. Of course, I'm not finding the image, but I really like this stuff. Like, so when he sent me the message that he was going to send stuff, of course I said, yes, please. He sent me some posters as well too. Here we go. Dr. Uncanny. So there's a Dr. Uncanny coming to visit there. You can just tell that this is a guy that just loves comics. And I honestly, I would suggest checking him out, Santa Muerte Comics. I don't know what he has for sale, but hit him up for sure. And I'll show you some on this one too. Pink Crack is what this one is called, which is good for me. So I'm really looking forward this week to dig into the other four, because if they're half as good as this one, I think I'm going to be all over these. And it looks like he does a lot of stuff in Sharpie. It looks like Sharpie line work in there for the most part. But yeah, good on him for kind of just digging into it. And super nice of him to offer to send some stuff. I mean, how can I say no if someone wants to send me free comics? So there you go.
That's cool.
So that's kind of quick there. I'll just show you the other ones here. So Santa Muerte, he's got a couple of issues of this that he sent me. And some of them are really thick, substantial volumes as well, too. And then the other two that he sent me, which if I remember him telling me correctly, these were kind of not quite 24-hour stories, but they were, I think, again, it was this kind of trying to create comics in a very short period of time. So this is Deranged Tales #2, and then Deranged Tales #4. So, and these are thinner, covers. Much thinner. Yeah, they're great. His style is really great. And even reading it on Twitter, I love when he posts the stuff on Twitter too, because he'll kind of post a page or two a day. So you can kind of follow some of this stuff. I don't know if the stuff he's posting now is all new work or if it's kind of this older stuff. So that's him. Let me put up his banner again just to make sure.
Any idea if he's a younger guy or an older guy? There's so much energy there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm assuming that he's a younger guy, but that's just an assumption on my part. Because of that energeticness to the whole thing.
That's the vibe I get, but who knows?
Hello, Sean. I'll take that. Yeah, so check out Santa Muerte Comics there if you're on Twitter.
There used to be a thing on YouTube where the artist would take 24 hours, do a live stream for 24 hours to create a comic book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's depends. I didn't ever follow the person. I remember the beginning. You could, like, if you start watching them from the beginning, it's like really energetic, high energy. They try to like come out with the idea and then everything else, and then suddenly the time was passing by, and I heard some people like completely just switched it off and just went to sleep because they couldn't handle it. But some pull through, and they're saying like this is the most. I mean, it was amazing because your hand was flowing and everything but the amount of tiredness in your brain, you just couldn't focus anymore. And it's kind of interesting how people.
Well, I think there's an event, some well-known. I can't remember if it was
Scott McCloud.
Started a 24-hour comic book day. And they've published some books of what people came up with in 24.
Oh, that's what was it? There you go.
It's probably a way for artists, creators to jumpstart themselves and sort of. Because Scott McCloud's always creatively looking for ways to get creators off their butts. So
yeah, and just to kind of force you to do something, right? Force those stories. The only way you're going to get to be a better storyteller is telling a ton of stories. So get it in there.
There's a thing where people write a whole novel in the month of November, I think it is.
Oh, okay.
It's the same like you have Inktober now, and very popular term to do this stuff. I did it once and burned
it's hard
the
to
shit
finish
out
a
of
novel, but if you give yourself a 30-day deadline, you just have to write something. You have to write a novel's worth of material, whether it's good or not.
If you're right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's my turn now.
Yes, Rasa, go ahead.
Okay, so this is something I'm not even familiar with the person in generally, or the person they're talking about. So, and also the publisher, which is interesting. So first about English publisher Lawrence King Publishing, and I'm talking about this little book. It says Eliza oh my god, Macellari. It is she. I think she's
Love that cover.
She's the Italian, and it's a translated version, and it's called Kusama. This is follows in a prolific Japanese artist.
Yeah.
Yayoi Kusama. So she's was
great.
Yeah, so she was an inspiration to create, first of all, by this Eliza girl, to create graphic novel. And for me, I was not aware of Yayoi Kusama because of she was in the 50s when she wrote in America. And then she had this revolutionary idea. She also, so anyway, so I'm jumping the gun anyway. So find this one. I love, like you say, it's just striking little thing, but this is very much well known for the artist itself. She's like called the polka dot lady, or the queen of polka dots. And anyway, she has a little bit of telling the story why she's obsessed with this artist and creator. And then she continuously tells the story, and this is really well graphed. Like, it's a beautifully renditioned graphic novel for sure, but it is definitely inspired by the artist. So after I read this one, I went on, of course, Google to check out what's this creator. So she's 91 at this present time, the artist Yayoi Kusama, and then she's originally from this tiny village in Japan. But unfortunately to her, she has issues with her brain. So she's like she started hearing voices a lot. So psychology, or like she has always mental issues all the time. And it started quite young, and she was like, this is the first stages of her youth, and where she just wanted to scream and running away, and why everybody's talking to her. So that her first kind of awareness of your mental issues, and also she lived in the house where mom was extremely insecure towards the marriage, because the marriage wasn't going really well, and her dad was promiscuous, and he was sleeping with anybody. And one time her mom, also she wasn't supporting of her ideas of being an artist. First of all, she's saying, if you want to be an artist, then you're going to be a tramp or something like that kind of thing, or living in the streets, not making money. People, male only do that as a thing of work, but they usually end up not being like wealthy and stuff like that, or having the families. And then 1958, she goes to New York, and it shows her the beginning life of that. She basically the first thing and foremost thing she wanted to do is to escape the life from her family, first of all, because her mom, and one of them times where she said to her to go follow her dad, and she follows her dad into this place where she sees her dad having sex with some stranger. And from that point onwards, she finds the sex or even anything of that kind of nature to be very uncomfortable. So it shows extreme. It's really well designed. This is the time when she sees her dad having sex. This is just the way this Eliza is portraying this. And then she's writing the letter before she goes to New York. She writes a letter to this artist as well, Georgia O'Keeffe, saying letter to expressing her interest in her art. And they tell a little story of this artist as well, where she lives in New Mexico, and that she is very grateful for receiving the letters from her. And then the life starts in New York, where she becomes absolutely obsessed with her work, where it rounds up to become actually quite successful, like very successful in that time, where the hippie time was quite a thing to happening, and she was one of those instigators, because she was having people. So this is the one of the most famous apparently of the work. Those are phalanges lying on the floor with a mirror, and her being in the middle of it, where she finds it is absolute. So where she says, obsession pour out of the canvas and become part of my environment.
What a beautiful use of a 2-page spread too. It almost looks like it's coming out at you with those side walls. That's really nice looking. I love that.
Yeah, as she said, and it says this, yeah, the space is covered in soft sculpture, stuffed phallus-shaped protrusus. I can't pronounce the word properly, but anyway, it's really well, graphically, it's really well designed. So what I was talking about, then she goes into a strong point where she creates a Kusama orgy pages, where she employs these actors, and they basically make love in the street or whatever the place. Oh no, they goes into a shopping mall where, you know, the window shopping malls where you put that behind them, and it tells them to go to have basically sex, and then they there. That's the scene they decided to do. So she employs this like I don't know, actors or free people, and people are walking by disgusted by it, and they basically she start painting them in dots, and police are arriving, and they need to run away from them because they're going to get arrested. So she was basically a rebel in that time and era. So yeah, and the life continues to her for her being as a full and happy until, because she's working, and what she was trying to portray, that saying that as long as I'm working, as long as I'm my life is busy, I'll be okay, because she's at the back of her head, she still has to continue basically protecting other people and herself from her mental issues, because it comes in waves, as this creator was telling us. And yeah, and then she went into gun violence protests, even the apparently famous part where she burns American flag in
right
next to the very famous where is it? So next to a George Washington statue.
Right, monument,
yeah, monument here. But absolutely, really good read. It's really clean lines. It's beautifully used colors.
It's beautiful colors, yeah.
Yeah, it is intriguing life story of a creator. And also, if you look at Google pictures, you see basically she's very, very much close to what actual creator was doing. It's almost kind of to a T, to be honest, even though it's in her own style. But she was really kind of making sure. And to the time of, I think in 70s, she goes back home, where everything whatever her parents had died already, but her health was deteriorating in a way. She even admitted herself into a like those specialty clinics who deals with mental issues, just to help herself. But she was continuously creating, and also in Japan, after kind of like so many years of being not part of the the culture and all, because she was not famous there at all because of the way her thought was, how she was portraying her life and everything. They came to understand, and she became quite famous there as well, and she got the gallery displays as well. And also came back in once again in America, because apparently she thought everybody forgot her, who she was. So yeah, really fantastic little tale, and also it still has her kind of like a fan who loves the art of the creator, and she's like saying in the back of here as well, as to thanks, I want to thank you Yayoi Kusama for her integrity as both a woman and an artist. So
can you tell us who the writer artist is again for this book?
Eliza Masalari. This one.
Man, that's amazing. Who put this one out again?
The Lawrence King Publishing.
Huh.
UK
I love
publisher.
that. That's an amazing looking book.
And that's a little bit the background.
Really great
UK
stuff.
publisher, so I wonder how wide the distribution is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I wanted to share with you guys because I saw this in my library and it stood out right away. I really like, and this creator, by the way, she has quite a few other graphic novels, I think. But like her art is very similar to what I've seen before, especially graphically done and the colors, use of color. So yeah, I'm gonna hopefully maybe find something else she's been doing, and it would be nice to see what else she's funded upon to do. But yeah, this was really very imaginative, and it kind of opens your eyes to a art world as well, rather than just going into your obscure, like your superhero writings and stuff like that. So it kind of like shows you what else there was, and especially in the time when my mom was growing up, basically she was kind of going into America and stuff like that. So I always try to tell my mom there's some different graphic novels when you think it's always superheroes.
Right. Well, I think you might have sold about 5 or 6 of those just in showing this off. So
it's absolutely
people.
Yeah, it's absolutely a beauty of a production. The binding is absolutely stunning. It's everything, whatever you would think of a hardback graphic novel you wanted to have, and it's also not a size. It's actually quite smaller than your a comic, but as I say,
that's okay.
It's a beautiful little just to learn. Just open your eyes to 1960s, especially if you have not lived through those times. So yeah, but she's imagine in 60s having her in the galleries, and she has actually been part of the Yate in London, the gallery where she was there in display as well and well known for it. Even the brand Uniqlo, the clothing brand I'm talking about now, they were part to introduce her as well into this. Uniqlo is a Japanese clothing brand, I think. I'm not mistaken.
Killer Rasa, that's a hell of a book, man. That's a really, really good one.
Yeah, I was surprised it was there because, as I say, I try to now go to the same library and it seems to be I'm not finding those, but now I can. What people return, this is how I found this. People return it and it was on the shelf and it's like, okay, this is it. I'm sure I was like a child, like this is mine. I'm not giving anybody because it's just so. And then yes, Warhol and Dali was mentioned in here because she was a big fan of theirs and she had conversations with them as well. Apparently they were quite a good friends because they have the same kind of mentality when it comes to artwork and how you represent yourself in the world of that. So yeah, really cool.
Yeah, very cool. Right on. Damien.
Okay, well, I'll try to be as cool. I don't know if I can do it. Put my little image back up.
There you go.
So I don't know if this came out this week, but it came out at my store this week.
Oh, wow.
A new Junji Ito translation. It's a 2009 graphic novel, but it's copyright 2022 in the US. So I think it just came out. And I loved it. This was amazing. I've been buying every Junji Ito that I find, and I haven't read them all. So far, I've only read the less well-known ones. Like, I don't think this is a really well-known one, Black Paradox. But I have to say they're perfect for me because they're $20 hardbacks. And this one's like 200 pages, so I don't have to read a long manga series. And it's a really nice package. And also, since I got it at my comic shop, I got a bit of a discount on it anyway. But $20 for a hardback, I think that's a really tempting price.
Yeah, that seems good. Yeah.
So I absolutely love this. It was like a schizophrenic dream in a way, a paranoid schizophrenic dream come true. And I loved everything about it till at the very end. He had one of the characters have a psychic vision of the future that then explained away a few things. But other than that, it was like a perfect, surreal fantasy horror story for me. And I don't know how much to give away.
Right. Is it really like Junji Ito, scary, like obscure, and goes into your mind and tricks you into thinking that everything crawling inside your skin?
Not so much. It's closer. There is some horror in it, but it's closer to a surreal fantasy. Because and maybe that's more my thing. Fantasy than,
just to example, I that thing I talked to you about crawling skin. I saw 2 pages of his Junji Ito book in the library, and then after I came back home, nothing. Nothing you recall. Are you happy? Came back after the library. I went to sleep and I slept. Somebody was crawling under my skin. That's how visually stimulating I was by just a couple of pages of Junji Ito book. So.
Yeah, I mean, I bought way more Junji Ito than I've read. Someone was saying they're not an admirer of him. Maybe the thrill will wear down, but I really like this book. It was not. There's some disturbing body horror here and there, but mostly not. Mostly that's not what it's about. And it's divided into 5 chapters, and each chapter could have been like an issue because each one has its own twists and shocks that all of which I did not see coming.
Right.
And it starts with this group of people who all want to kill themselves, and they've met on a website about suicide. And so now they're strangers to each other, decide to get together and kill themselves together. You know, the social side of suicide. But so I'm not sure how much to give away, but as it unfolds, each one has a reason for committing suicide. One person is she just feels constant anxiety and can't stand it. But all the others have a double of some sort. One has a robot double. One has a double in the mirror.
Yeah.
And the other just keeps seeing his doppelganger off in the distance. And this makes him want to kill himself because he believes that when you see your doppelganger, it means you're about to die anyway. So he wants to choose his own death.
Wow.
This guy worked at a company where they were making humanoid robots, and they chose him to be the model of their first robot. I guess because he's so interesting looking.
Wow.
Very clean down there as well. By the way.
Yes, you're right. Well, he's a robot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And she has somehow a weird mirror version of herself that's bothering her, but also she has a birthmark on one side of her face that is a hideous deformity that she keeps covered up.
Oh wow! I see them.
Great stuff, man.
So, yeah, wonderfully paced. Occasionally, even with Junji Ito, the little bit of Junji Ito I've read, sometimes it feels too stretched out, but it did not feel that way here to me. It felt just perfectly paced.
Concise, yeah.
And, they're going to kill themselves by all sitting in the car and putting the carbon monoxide in the car. But I don't know if I should tell you any of the twists beyond that. Because each chapter has its own crazy twists, and it gets crazier and crazier. I will say that we get a kind of link to another world that may be the afterlife.
Super cool.
And there's these little jewels that come from the other world that may be human souls.
Right.
But he plays it out in all these different ways. And I really want to tell you all the crazy things that happen. But I don't think showing you the pictures will give away too much. But it just
got a beautiful style.
It is a beautiful style. It is weird how everybody looks like they're a teenager, but they're all adults. I mean, one character is she's a nurse.
And she looks like she's 5.
This guy here is a leading doctor of I'm not quite sure, skin issues.
Right.
But so like at first you think the robot's gone, then the robot comes back, then the robot's trying to kill itself. There's just all kinds of stuff. And it gets to the point where it's kind of apocalyptic and environmental, but in a way that I would just never have foreseen.
Don't you guys think that manga's blacks are so black that is so stunningly to look at? I don't know what they print like, but it's always, when you have like a black and white graphic novel, whatever, from anywhere else but manga, it seems a little bit less black when in here. I don't know why, maybe in screen, but it looks lovely. And I think it's so important to have that black, really black. It just stands out so well.
And definitely with Junji Ito, I mean, I just love his textures and everything. I would, some manga when I've read, I've kind of wished it was in color, but not at all with Junji Ito. And in fact, there's a short story in color at the back, and it's perfectly nice, but I kind of liked the black and white better.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow.
So I just poured through this. I mean, not every reader was the same as me. I love surreal kind of creepy dream stories.
Yeah.
And I definitely, a lot of it felt like being, or what I imagine it would be like to be inside the mind of a paranoid schizophrenic, which is a common kind of schizophrenic, which I've come across a number of times in my life, sadly, for those people. But anyway, awesome book. So, which reminds me, I need to go back and read some of those other Junji Ito's that I bought. But the thinness, the 200 pages reads really quickly, and so that really helped me.
Yeah, seems definitely concise. I'll have to pick it up for Jaden. Jaden's read a ton of Junji Ito at this point, but he doesn't have that one.
Yeah,
so
I think it just came out this month, if I understand correctly.
So is Jaden shifting more to manga or superhero still?
He's definitely Jaden is shifted far away from superhero. Superhero stuff doesn't really interest him that much. He's all sorts of stuff. Like his mostly focus is in music. He loves music. He'll read stuff when I give it to him, and he's got some manga and stuff, and he'll watch some anime as well too. What's the one that he just finished watching? I don't remember. He just finished watching this epic long anime series, but I'm completely drawing a blank on the name. But so he's far away from superheroes. We all watch the Marvel stuff together, but when it comes to reading, he'd rather read. He's really big into kind of musician biographies and things. Like he read the Sun Ra biography, and he's read biographies of comedians like John Cleese, and he's really big into Frank Zappa, Captain Beefheart, etc. He's big into kind of reading about these musicians specifically is kind of where his real big focus is. So yeah.
Is he playing music?
Yeah,
he's playing music with his friends. Yeah. Him and a couple of his buddies are doing some stuff, and then he's been recording some stuff on his own too, exploring that, which is great. But I haven't heard anything that he's played with his friends. I don't know how much they record as opposed to just kind of get together and hang out and play. But it's cool. So he's definitely more on that side, but most of the time it'll be stuff that hey, you should check this out, you might like it. He'll gobble that stuff up, but not really superhero stuff.
Does he play an instrument or?
Yeah, he plays bass. He plays bass, and then he plays with a guy who plays trumpet, and then they got this drummer and a guitarist, and so a little, just experimenting with stuff.
Were you a bass player at some point?
Yeah, I played bass as well too at the start. Yeah.
I always thought the bass players were the thing to watch, not like lead guitarists.
That's right.
Fancy, very too much in my face. Like, don't start doing that, and showing off this, like how you can. But the bass is just like always cool, obscure first, or maybe just like the vibe they portray. It's just so beautiful, and I think
gotta have a good rhythm section, man. Otherwise, it's all falling apart.
Exactly.
That was great, Damien. That looks fantastic. So, yes, he absolutely was. Fantagraphics just put out a book just on the Sun Ra thing. They just put out a book that collects because Sun Ra and his orchestra, they did a lot of their own private pressings of their music, and they created their own art, but they were very, very limited pressings. So Fantagraphics put together a collection of all of that artwork recently, so that would be one to keep your eyes out for if you like Sun Ra. So I did an order to Wow Cool, and one of the things that I ordered was they had the final issue from volume 2 of Jim Woodring's Jim series. It was 6 issues. So over one night, I read the whole 6 issues, and man, oh man, I just watched the documentary again with my son because he hadn't seen it. So watching that again and then digging back into Woodring's world here, it was so much fun. These are they were really hidden. They were mixed for me. There was some really, really fantastic stuff, but you do get the sense in a couple of issues that he's still sort of working things out. One of the things that he says at the end of the final issue, he says, talks about a Frank story, and he says that friends of his have said to him, like, you should let go of this other stuff and focus on the character Frank and build a universe around Frank and start telling more Frank stories. So even stuff like this, you get early days where he is doing some writing at the bottom of each of the pages to kind of tell you the story. So he's still sort of in that mode with some of this stuff. In the first volume of Jim, which was kind of magazine size, there was a lot of prose, and there's some of that in this series as well too, where it's more stories with some art, but so it still feels like he's holding on to that a little bit, where he wants to still have that storyteller side of him, and he hasn't fully committed to completely non-verbal stories. And then at the back we get a different story here too, so a black and white tale of this guy who's an artist, and Jim Woodring draws a lot from his dreams. He often kind of, I think he journals his dreams too, and where he gets a lot of his ideas. And if you've watched the documentary on him, he also has these little pocket books where he does little drawings and stuff that comes to him. And it's really cool the way he talks about writing his stories, where he'll sit and write a sentence, Frank wakes up in the morning, and if it has some sort of resonance with him, that'll be the first panel, and then he'll kind of go on that way. But it's really the first thing that comes to his head that he'll start writing. So there's this really kind of nice flow. All of that to say is that there's a really nice flow to his storytelling, and it does really lend itself to this dreamlike quality, not in so much as just as an excuse to try to write a story, but it sort of makes that dream sense, and you sort of get that feeling that there's these underlying messages that you have to kind of try to unravel, as opposed to just a dream about there was one day I went to school and I didn't have pants on or whatever. There feels always like there's a little more. This was a really fun Frank story. I've seen this one before in many different places, and this is from one of the issues I've had the longest. And it's basically Frank going to visit the place of horrors, and he's on his way to visit the place of horrors, and along the way he's seeing all these horrific things that are happening to people in his world. And when he comes, he eventually decides to screw it, I'm coming back home, and above his door to his house he puts exit, so he goes back into his house. So he never does make it to the house of horrors itself. The world is horrific enough. And then this style of Jim Woodring is great as well. I mean, again, like the textures that he puts on things are really amazing. So in this story, he's made himself this writing desk, and this is how he's going to kind of force himself to be creative. So again, something drawn from dreams, where now everybody has come over to see this piece of furniture that he's built. And of course, what they want him to do is, well, you have to get in there and write something. But he's finding when he's in there, he doesn't actually there's nothing that really comes to him. It's more of a struggle to come up with things when he's in that kind of contraption or whatever. So I love the guy. I think he's an incredible creator. He's meant a lot to me throughout my life. We've talked about him many times. But I think he's one of the best artists out there. I did order a copy of his newest book through one of my comic shops. It's going to take a couple of weeks to get here, so I did end up getting a signed copy as well. But I just, oh yeah, here we go. I just can't, he's just really, really incredible. So this is the kind of thing I was talking about, where he'll have an illustration at the top, and then he sort of tells a story. In this one, it's kind of these kids that are throwing apples at this pig that's lying there, and talking about how they would make the world a better place if they could have anything come into existence from their dreams. What would they do to make the world really just incredible place to be? And it kind of comes to a point where nothing would exist, and you would just kind of relax all day. And then they go back to throwing things at the pig. One of the kids hits the pig in the head, and they all end up cheering. So it's these really kind of interesting stories as well too, that you feel like you're getting a story. You feel like you're getting almost a parable, I guess, to some degree. And one of my favorite characters, Manhog, I think is he's such a poor bastard, man. The stuff that happens to Manhog throughout is really just, you feel for the guy. In this one, he sees Frank a piece of food, and he kind of hangs it from a tree to let it kind of start to reveal itself in this. So he does it, and it turns out to be this creature that attacks more Manhog. and ends up stringing him up from a tree instead. So he always kind of gets beaten up.
Manhog is like Charlie Brown to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I had not forgotten about, but it was nice to see again as a reminder, in volume 1 of his Jim magazine, there was these Jimland novelties where it was always filled with things that you could supposedly actually order from him. Some were more realistic, and then some were like these, you know, a Jiva model, for example, that if you wanted it, it would cost you $1,800. But there was also things like he would sell T-shirts or Pup Shaw mini comics, and I always regret I never ordered away for any of this stuff, because there was some stuff that was like this mini comic, for example, $2. I'm sure he would have actually sent you something. You could also send away for a free Jimland Novelties catalog as well too. And I never did any of that stuff back then, because I always just assumed that even though it was affordable stuff, none of this stuff actually existed. And I kind of wish I did, and I don't know of anybody who has. Just to see what this stuff was, and if he would actually make you these sculptures. I'll just kind of show you the covers on the last few.
Oh, beautiful.
Highly recommended to pick up. This is an all Frank issue. And what we're looking at kind of 93, 94, and I think 95 for issue 6 at least. So they're really... It's great stuff. Anything you can find of Woodring, honestly, I would highly recommend it. But this stuff is out there. It's not the easiest to find. It took me quite a long time to finish this run. And it was just by fluke that it came up on Wow Cool for, I think it was a couple of bucks for the final issue, which is this one here. So it's a beautiful piece of art on the front there. Colin recently, Loading the Cannon, he went to an exhibit of kind of 90s indie cartoonists and saw some original Jim Woodring pieces there that he sent me photos of that looked just freaking gorgeous. So, yeah. And then, of course, there's a ton of collections of his stuff too, Frank. And there's a big book of Jim and all sorts of things that are out there for people. So yeah, that was such a fun kind of night of sitting and absorbing all of these at once and really getting into that headspace of Jim late at night as I was kind of drifting off to sleep as well too. Maybe is the kind of prime time to be reading it, where you're sort of in that semi-conscious state as you're about to fall asleep. Yeah.
Somebody on eBay selling his charcoal original art for just $6,000. Just $6,000.
That's all.
Yeah. Pocket money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's built up a name for himself over the years for sure, and rightfully so. The guy's incredible. And apparently, like in that documentary, you see the amount of artwork that he produces. He's kind of one of these guys that can't stop. He's painting, charcoal, pen and ink, all sorts of stuff. And he has a bit of stuff from when he was a kid, not much, but it's a lot. Yeah, this is the one, this beautiful spring day that Rick Ray is talking about is the one that I ordered. So the amount of stuff that's out there, even that he has himself, is really, really incredible, because he'll sometimes draw, or he'll do a piece and he'll do versions of it, 5 different versions, because he's unhappy with the first 4. So he'll redo the whole piece as opposed to rework an area. He'll just start from scratch again, right? So Graphomania. Cool. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I tend to forget that he's done other stuff besides Frank. I've read so much of that and not much of the other.
Is Fran another thing he's done as well?
Fran, that's right. Yeah, Fran is out there as well too. Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Rasa, what do you got?
Okay, let's go the Batman route. I need some Batman sometimes, but this was I've heard long time ago, because maybe the name, but I was curious. I'm talking about Kevin Smith Batman Cacophony with Walt Flanagan's art and Sandra Hope on ink. This is a miniseries, apparently. Was the first creation of the Kevin Smith. And of course, like when I started getting into comic books, that comic book TV show we were doing, talking about stuff out of in the shop with Walt Flanagan and friends. You guys probably remember. I don't remember the name now. But anyway, Kevin Smith is, of course, Chasing Amy, Clerks, Zack and Miri Make Porno. That's kind of stuff he creates. And apparently he created more Clerks 3 or 4, whatever that name is. And I never read his any other things. Like so this is my first basically comic introduction of Kevin Smith.
Right.
I know that he has done famous run on Daredevil. I know.
that's right.
Terrence, have you read?
I haven't read the Kevin Smith stuff. No.
And he's well known for a Green Arrow run also.
Yes, the Quiver, which I have not. I don't know if I've read it. I don't think I have, because I do enjoy Green Arrow sometimes in my life. So anyway, so Batman, it was there. By the way, basically my excuse was I see it, and I was like, why not? I have to. I heard this name, I heard it, so I was thinking, okay, let's just go and read through. And honestly, the first thing I read is, of course, that introduction by himself, Kevin Smith. And he says, the first thing he says, to address the elephant in the room. Yes, Walt got the job because he's my friend. And yes, he's unseemingly unprofessional to train such a naked nepotism, so much so that the base coach from the other team insinuated that I bullied DC editorial to work with me on this mini issue anyway. But then he started to explain why he did it and blah, 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 and told a little bit of a story of how he got into comic books and why Batman was such a thing for him. So anyway, we start, of course, in this Arkham Asylum, like we always do, like Batman comic book without Arkham Asylum is not like something without a car, let's say this way. I don't know. I lost the train of thought what I was trying to say. But anyway, so of course, the story starts with a Joker in the full force because of Arkham Asylum, and somebody coming to get him out of there. And apparently, due to a money funding, they get rid of some security members, and those security members sold the information about Arkham Asylum, which is a really good way of dealing with the situation. And of course, Joker is reading his book as he would do while he's sitting behind a very thick Perspiglass. And the person who's coming after him is Deadshot. The Deadshot coming in here, and he was kind of surprised. Oh, you're getting me out of here? And he's like, no, I'm actually coming here to kill you. I really enjoy rendition of Joker in here, first of all, by Flanagan. I don't think I've seen the strongest art of the Batman, because a slew of artists we had. But the curiosity was this. They don't describe him as a name of who he would be, but isn't it there is like a Japanese horror show with these people wearing masks with this kind of halo ring inside, and it's all red and something. I don't know. It just seems very familiar to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the action happens straight away, and to my surprise, a shot fired, and I was thinking, okay, so the bad guy, because of course the Deadshot, and nope, it's a Deadshot who got actually caboozled or basically shot in the head.
Shot.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there was this scene in here where Joker is basically they escaped the Arkham Asylum, and there's this suitcase the guy is given to him, and it's like, okay, so to my surprise, what is this? And he opens it up, and it's a huge amount of chunk of money, and he's giving to him. And he's like, okay, as a Joker would be, he's like, okay, don't worry, I'm okay with that. He's starting to take his clothes off. And he's like, I like it from behind, because I'll be a bitch for a second because it's just saved me out. And then we are going to the is it Zsasz? Is the killer's name of this guy who's
oh yeah, Zsasz or something?
Yeah, something like that. So anyway, we jump into this scene of this murderer, who looks actually fantastic and creepy as creepy can be, while he murdered a couple while asleep, I think. And then he didn't realize that they have kids, and he was about to go to murder kids while Batman interferes with this. By the way, what I really like about this Batman is this color highlight, because I think it's really nice to have that, because it basically gives you that iconic color of the suit of the Batman. Just my opinion. And then I didn't remember that he is kind of not wearing any clothes whatsoever, because he has to just mark himself all the time as he gives a killing. So yeah, it's goes to the point where we discovered that Deadshot actually hasn't been shot. He's using really clever amount of technology in his helmet, where is the Kevlar and also a pack of pretend blood, so he would be recognized as killed, and also his suits reduces the amount of the pulse, so you'll think that actual person was murdered in that time and things. And then we get into amount of like this dude, a guy who has also mental health issues, and he's thinking that he's a Greek god, and everybody should be telling everybody, calling him as a, your righteousness or something like that, whatever it was. And he has this place in Olympus and everything. And apparently he was, the whole point of the story was that this guy was given by Joker before he was arrested a laughing gas, but what he's cleverly done, he turned this laughing gas into a psychotropic drug, where you basically not die from the laughing, but you get a high and also have other issues, which the same thing with murder, but it goes manipulates your head, and it was called Chuckles, and was going into streets so much in popularity that he gained his fortune prior to that. Apparently he's one of the things. Yes, Squid Game, thank you. That's the person that the person looked like, Squid Game people. And anyway, so Joker gets a hold of him once again after being released. He kills everybody surrounding this guy. I forgot his name now. Like always, I have to. It's too many names to remember. One story, so many names to remember to actually be telling you. But that's what he does to the school, where he's basically put all the money, pretend money, that he's a good guy. He's not a drug dealer. He's philanthropist. That's what they call themselves these days as well. And that's the basically effect on people when they use this Chuckles venom kind of type of super drug. Really good, absolutely, lots of things. What really surprises me, and to my this couple of pages of where he took so the story goes where Joker almost dies, but Batman makes a decision, and I was very surprised. And there's a bit of a spoiler alert. He has this conversation with Gordon while holding Joker, or to almost to the point of death, and Gordon is trying to convince Batman not to help Joker, just let him die. Somebody stabbed him. It's not your fault. Nothing is okay. You just leave him there, lie there, bleed out, and that's it. We will finish. We'll not have any more horrors. But Batman has his other things to say about the Joker, because if Joker isn't there, Batman wouldn't be there in existence, or what would people say? So they jump in 6 months later, where in ICU hospital, Joker lies with his the most horrible mustache you can ever see on a Joker.
Oh my god!
And he's like reading the same book from the beginning of the story of this miniseries. And he's like, I know who you are. And then Batman's pretending to be a lawyer in order to get access to the Joker to have this conversation. And basically what Batman is doing, I don't know how, like, it could be quite controversial, saying this way. Why would Batman even want to talk to Joker and ask him, why you're going after me, Why, not like, why you're going after me? What is the end story for us, basically? Is it that I get murdered? Or is it just because, you just like to go after me, and that's how the existence of both of us will be? And Joker says to Blaine, he says to him, no, I just want to murder you. I just want to see you dead. That's the only thing it is. And Batman's like, kind of thing. So it was interesting, the conversation they had. And Batman's also tells you a little bit how Batman sees the Joker. And I'm not going to say that part, because a lot of people, people who hasn't not read it will be not spoiled in that point, because quite an interesting take on what Batman would think about Joker in itself. So really good. It also has a little bit extra material of like the script at the back of this, which is some people is interested in, which I'm not really because I already read the storyline. And they had some beautiful Sienkiewicz's covers.
Okay.
So this is the first one.
Yeah. I was seeing those as you were going through.
There you go. That's those the two. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Sienkiewicz. And this is probably my favorite. This one here.
Ooh.
Crazy, man.
Quite gruesome, but
heartbreaking.
Yeah, literally. And then that's Flanagan's idea of how he wants to portray Deadshot.
Right.
He wanted to go into a classic style of Deadshot look. Yeah, really good read. Fast. Doesn't break the bank, especially to buy this if you needed to, or library definitely will have those because it's Batman at the end of the day, and it's Kevin Smith name plastered on top of it. So I think it will be readily available for anybody to get hold of it. And I think it's quite interesting read, and just have a feel of it of Walt Flanagan's and his idea of art style, how he was portraying everything else, and it is quite static in some points. These figures. I think this scene here where the Batman is looking, it doesn't look Batman itself.
Uh-oh.
Oh, did we
Frozen.
lose her? Oh.
Rasa, maybe you should click out and come back in or something.
Yeah. Frozen up. Yeah, I mean, I never read his Daredevil stuff because I never heard anything good about it. So I kind of stayed away. I think, if I'm remembering right, though, I can't remember which run he followed, but I know that there was like this momentum, and then it was kind of a tough act for him to follow. I think things were stacked against him. Rasa, you're back. There you go.
Good now.
Yeah. Oh, my internet just died while I was talking. It was like,
you froze up on us for a bit.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know where I was going back, but whatever.
Terrence was talking about the Daredevil run that he never read by.
Yeah, I'd never heard.
Smith. He didn't hear good things.
I'd never heard anything good about it. So that was based on why I didn't try it. But I associated some of that with he was following up a run that was so kind of highly regarded that he didn't really stand a chance. So people were kind of shitting on him because it's somebody new. But I ultimately didn't hear too many good things about it. So I never really was curious. I mean, I'm curious because it's Daredevil. Maybe it's a library look. I'll check in my library, see if they've got anything.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how Joe Quesada drew Daredevil. That part interests me a little bit.
Right.
I think this art isn't as bad as what I sometimes would portray as a bad art. To be honest,
Yeah.
It does have chops, and he's, like when you see the panels and stuff like that, especially the reading lines and all that stuff, it seems to be it works quite well in how you're reading the story. So yeah. Karen Page. Okay, cool, interesting. But anyway, I've always heard about this cacophony of his Batman because he's such a Batman fan. We all know that he loved Batman and he's all about Batman opinion and stuff like that. So I just wanted to see what his take on Batman was. As the story itself was surprisingly good, but because of the Joker takes and stuff, but nothing mind blowing. I've like you read something similar to that. It's very difficult to portray Batman these days and get surprised by it, especially if you read quite a lot of it. Like myself, I've read so many of it, so it tickles my fancy.
Unless
of the Batman.
Josh Simmons.
Yeah. What? Who's
Unless you're Josh Simmons, the guy that did that Dream of the Bat stuff I've shown off before.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well.
Sorry. Take on Batman.
Yeah, which I have not read. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I am kind, so I've never tried to crack a lot, especially art-wise. It's not easy.
No, for sure.
On anybody to create stuff like that, especially, But he does have help. I think Sarah Hope, I think is her name, who's inked it. It does kind of like, because I saw some, I think I went on Google, I saw some of the like pencils, and I think she cleaned up him quite nicely, to be honest. Insane, but it's good. Not bad.
Yeah, cool.
Not bad.
Another great thing to try from the library, right? Because you don't know what a Kevin Smith is going to be like. So you just
exactly
pick it up and give it a try and be pleasantly surprised.
Because I've been doing this, reading comic books for a while now. It's always been in the back of my mind. So when I see it on the shelf, it's like, okay, why not just go give it, and it doesn't cost you a penny. Before I used to have this ginormous list. I was like, oh my god, did I? Because I never went to libraries before because the choices wasn't there. But now, you know what? Why not? It doesn't break your bank. It just you just take some time away from your daily routine. Let's say, that's your investment at the end of the day. So
right,
so which is good.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the library,
what do you got?
I used the library's digital service to read Fantagraphics' first volume, Collecting Popeye.
Oh yeah, you've been
Um,
showing that. Yeah.
And I was loving it, and I thought, well, I'm just going to read straight through. But after about 40 or 50 pages, I realized, hey, these are supposed to be read one a week, and it's starting to get a little harder to get through. But I'll definitely continue with it. But it's an odd collection because they don't explain very much. But they have a cartoonist do an introduction that didn't tell me anything. He travels through time. And I'm not sure who this cartoonist is, if I'm supposed to know who that is. Or that may be E.C. Segar there. So I don't know who that is. Does anyone know? That I think
looks
is
like Santa.
Looks like one of the side characters, yeah.
Cartoonist of who's traveled into the real world of E.C. Segar, he claims. So he meets all these characters hanging out. And then he finds E.C. Segar fishing, and they chat a little. I can't even remember if they say anything very important. But so I don't know. That's all obscure to me. But then another one by apparently a modern cartoonist was actually very good. But again, I don't know how it introduces this. But in this, Popeye has lost his oomph. And so Olive Oyl goes and beats
to us all.
beats up the rival to Popeye for her affection, or several of them. And then she goes and by allowing this guy to photograph her feet, he gives her a jug of oomph to bring back to Popeye. Give him the oomph, and then he goes and beats up the rival also. It was very good. That was very good, but I don't know who it's by or why it was there. And then we dive into the E.C. Segar stuff from about 1930. Apparently, for quite a while, there had been this thimble theater, and then this character Popeye showed up and eventually stole the show. But before that, it was focused on Olive Oyl and castor oil and the oil family. And this starts several months into Popeye appearing, so maybe this is where he first is in every strip or something. But I kind of would have liked to see the stuff leading up as to how he becomes more and more a part of the story. So at first it's a lot of stuff about different rivals for Olive Oyl's affection, like this guy who was courting her years ago and expected her to still be around when he came back, comes in and finds her sitting on Popeye's lap, and she's hello. So what was I going to say? So that's quite charming. So I just would love to see some of the background. I don't know if they've ever published the stuff that came up. There's probably a Thimble Theater book somewhere.
Yeah.
I need to look for. But I don't know, maybe it's by zooming in on the panels, but I really enjoy this early art style. You can see Popeye is very ugly, and they make reference occasionally to him being old too. But he's a very good fighter. But these guys fight so much over each other that they end up beating up her, not each other. And then she whacks them both on the head and says, "Love's a lot of hooey anyhow." So there were a few more strips like that that were more about Olive Oyl's troubles with these suitors, which always ends up with her getting beaten up and them wandering off. And then, and I loved this one where he's courting her, and Olive Oyl's father comes and says, no kissing. You youngins just got to have your fun, but kissing spreads germs and you've got to stop it. Why don't you do like the Eskimos? Instead of kissing, they rub noses. So we get this whole nose rubbing scene. They look re-lettered. I hadn't thought of that. Really? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it doesn't to me, but
Doesn't
yeah, I
look-
mean,
yeah,
yeah.
I wouldn't know for sure. They definitely keep the kind of purposely bad spelling. Yeah, so there they are, both with bandages on their noses. So, let's see, is this the? Yeah, then it seems like at this point, Popeye is more like this. Olive Oil lets him tag along, but she really maybe is looking for other guys. There's a example of the spelling. Instead of insults, it's insulks. Popeye in particular gets a lot of words wrong.
Right.
Which, you know, when I read Crazy Cat, I kind of thought he innovated that. But it seems like maybe a lot of other comic strips at the time would get some of their humor by the misspellings. So she takes Popeye to a dance, but then tells him to wait outside because Popeye can't dance and she wants to dance with better dancers. But then he beats up every man coming into the dance. And so they're like, who are we gonna? If only we had a man to dance with. And then Popeye shows up and there's a line of women dancing with him. Of course, he's a terrible dancer. And Olive Oil now wants to dance with him, but he says you have to get at the end of the line.
He's there's all the hell out of everybody. Hilarious.
And so this pattern of people getting beaten up, then this is a great one where she takes I can't go through every one. I probably need to stop soon, but she takes him to this art exhibit. And he says it's all crap. And the woman who owns the art is like, that picture cost $50,000. And he says, you got cheated. Look, I've got this art. It cost me $5 to get this tattoo on my back. And it's more fitting to look at. Anyway, but then eventually this plot line, here we go. So Castor Oil is a wheeler dealer, and he wants to be Popeye's manager as a boxer. And so then weeks and weeks go on of all the shenanigans of boxing, and the main problem is that basically Popeye punches out people before he gets in the boxing ring. or in this case, this guy says, no one can knock me out, so Popeye knocks him out. But still, Castor Oil is obsessed by how Popeye needs to get some training. But the training always goes wrong because Popeye just knocks people out.
Listen,
he insulted me punch, said his foot slipped. Oh, yeah, this guy keeps saying, oh, yeah, you didn't really knock me out. My foot slipped.
Right.
So it just goes on. And then, we get Popeye in training. And then when Popeye finally gets in the ring, he loses the fights all the time, even though he wins them, because he's punching out the referee and he's doing all kinds of stuff. He tells the referee to stop counting because he wants him to get back up so he can hit him again. And Castor Oil is going crazy trying to manage him because if only Popeye would do things right, they could make thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I guess boxing was a big money-making thing back in the 30s because, they're talking about purses of $2,000 and stuff. That's a huge amount of money in the 90s. Of course, this is a comic strip, so I don't know how realistic those figures are. And then eventually, I can't. Popeye says, "Well, you want me to practice? I'm going to go. All these boxers keep getting knocked out, so I'm going to go out and practice on my friends at the dock." So he goes down. Where do we see that? He goes down to the dock, and he basically punches out everybody working at the dock, and so he gets arrested. It's all these police to take him to jail. And there's no spinach in here yet. There's no Bluto.
Oh,
It's just like this crazy guy violent. Popeye. So he gets taken to jail, and it's like, oh no, now we could have made thousands of dollars, but he's stuck in jail now, and he's supposed to fight Kid Sletch, 27, who has 27 first-round knockouts and etc. Wow. Maybe jail's the safest place for Popeye. So all this stuff just goes on for weeks and weeks.
Amazing.
So Popeye's in jail, and he's like, there's not enough ventilation in here, so he pulls the bars out of the window. And then he thinks he needs a nice view, so he just takes apart the wall of the jail to view the outside. And then there's just a whole bunch of business where he puts a little curtain over his hole in the jail, and he keeps slipping in and out, and the jailers can't figure it out. And eventually he tells the main jailer that he's got a twin. So when the jailer meets him out in the regular world, so this shtick about the boxing and the jail goes on, and it's very funny, but it's hard to read too many.
Yeah,
here's a great scene where they're listening to the boxing match on the radio.
Sock.
So all of this is fascinating to me. I feel not only is it hilarious, but I feel like it tells us something about the sense of humor from the 1930s. This is exactly 1930. So when did the Depression start? 31 or 30? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like on the cusp of the Depression.
Right there. Yeah.
So Popeye is just this magical but crazy being, who can punch out anybody and who's in love with Olive Oyl, who has lots of suitors, although they're all ugly and unpleasant. But finally they kick him out of jail for not behaving himself.
It's amazing.
But so yeah, I really like this. I'll be reading more of it. I'm trying to resist the urge to buy everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'll be happy just having read it, or if I'll buy the hard.
Well, and I seem to remember that this is this one that's kind of like one of those giant oversized ones too. I seem to remember.
Well, I don't know because I only have it. I would think so. I think it would make sense to at least get it close to the original size when the newspapers were very big back then.
Yeah.
And the colors are very pleasing. I mean, Fantagraphics, I think, always does a good job of,
reproduction,
restoring things and keeping them very close to the way they should be. Oh, and finally he gets in the ring and is going to do a real fight. And it turns out the guy is his old friend from his sea adventures. So they don't fight. So once again, poor Castor Oyl can't earn any money from the great boxing skills of Popeye. Oh, and then finally, when the boxing match is all over, they fight. So that's why I think I on Twitter said that Popeye was all punching. I mean, it was literally just everything. The whole joke centers around punching.
Right.
So not shooting and killing, but punching a lot.
Yeah.
I always liked when I watched cartoons of Popeye, the Olive Oyl was always my favorite. I just love that female was punching some guy's ass out flat.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh yes, that's how you should do it. Because my parents were complaining because other boys' parents used to come to my house saying why she's doing that. I guess I watched too many of the Popeyes.
You were Olive Oyl.
Yeah.
Well, and my one disappointment in this long boxing sequence is I really do think Olive Oyl is kind of the star character to me. And she played a lesser role once the whole boxing shtick went on.
She was fantastic. And her voice in cartoons are fantastic.
Yeah. So in fact, my favorite thing in that Popeye movie that Robert Altman did was Olive Oyl.
Yep.
But who was that actress? She was really good.
Shelley Duvall.
Shelley Duvall, yeah.
Underrated. One of Altman's most underrated movies.
It's a crazy movie. Yeah.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not what the normal Altman fan wants, I guess.
Well, but that's the thing, though. I would argue that it is. You can't really hear any of the dialogue. People are talking over each other. Actors are mumbling. That's kind of like a staple in a lot of Altman stuff, or especially early days Altman. But Shelley Duvall absolutely knocks it out of the park. I've got it on LP as well, too, the soundtrack. And the songs that she sings, they're so entertaining. I found it a really entertaining film. Yeah, it's really good. It's good to check out.
Was it just called Popeye as well?
Popeye, yeah.
Okay.
Do you know the Robert Altman, the director, Rasa?
I need to see picture. I need to see face. I'm so bad with names that I probably have, but I can't tell you.
He was a very unusual director. He did Nashville. He did MASH, right?
The movie MASH.
He did Pret-a-Porter, the one about fashion in Paris.
I must have, because as I say, really, like for me, that's the thing. I need visually stimulating my eyes to understand what it was. But if I have not watched, I definitely
McCabe and Mrs. Miller. I would strongly recommend that one. That's a phenomenal movie. McCabe and Mrs. Miller.
when we finish, you can just tell me exactly maybe give me a link on Twitter so I can go
Yeah, for sure.
exactly, because sometimes I don't spell the names properly when you
A
guys.
lot of
Right.
his movies are improvised, right? The actors are
they're
improvising.
more not necessarily improvised, but he encourages people to. There's a lot of times, one of the infamous stories, I can't remember which movie it was for, the infamous story of having this kind of a lot of actors on set, keeping the camera crew outside of the room so he could kind of block the action and get people doing their dialogue, then bring the camera people in, everything was handheld, and just basically go, okay, go. And have the cameraman kind of hunting for dialogue, so you sort of feel like you're right in the middle of this
like
big
a documentary crew at a party or something.
And then especially in McCabe and Mrs. Miller, there's a lot of people in the movie talking over each other, which isn't something that you normally see in movies. People get their space, you want to hear everything. There's a lot of dialogue you end up missing because there's so much background noise, but that adds to kind of like that adds to it for me. I think I love that kind of stuff because you really get that extra layer of you're there in the room and you've got to really pay attention to what little nuggets are being dropped, but even if you miss some of it, you still get a really, really solid story. Because McCabe and Mrs. I just rewatched that this year, and it's still just as amazing as when I first saw it.
Cool.
And this one, He Needs Me, this
movies.
is the song of the movie. This one is so good. It's amazing in the Popeye movie.
So yeah, you're definitely gonna have to give me the link because I am a fan of that story. I definitely would be curious if I have not watched it. I can't tell. My husband as well.
It has Robin Williams as Popeye.
Oh, definitely then, because Robin Williams is one of my favorite actors. So
yeah,
I must have watched something similar to that because I absolutely it's heartbreaking to even talk about that man. But yeah, it's one of my favorite actors anyway. So so must have something, has to be. Never have I missed one of movie with that can't be because I usually have memories of movies he's done and stuff like that. But
yeah, like I said, it's not very highly regarded by pretty much anybody.
Right.
It got trashed like hands down, and I mean whatever, that's their taste. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah.
I remember. I definitely
would be now you say but I would be curious if I have not watched because as I say, when my husband does the same thing, have you not remember this movie? This is this. I was like, hey, show me me the picture. I always say, show me the picture. Okay, yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Always, because it gives me all the details in the world, and it's like, my God, I kind of remember that fair, but I just need visual thing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's the saddest thing ever happened in the movie world. Anyway,
so two kind of shorter ones. I'll kind of because this first one especially is going to be a minute, if that. One of the other reasons why I ordered from Wow Cool is because they posted on their Twitter that they got 2 early issues of Nate Doyle's Crooked Teeth. I'm a huge fan of this. I've talked about this series before. I thought I would never get a chance to lay my eyes on any of this early stuff. He does everything himself. It's very small amounts that he produces. They sell out immediately. These are great because it's early days of him doing these mini comics. There's no year on this one here, but he's notorious. Here we go. 2008 is what year Crooked Teeth #3 went out, and it's really thin. The later issues that I have, they're much bigger than this, and they're a little more beefier. So this has some sketches. It has the start of his first attempt at doing kind of a long format storytelling. Mostly silent for this first issue, or maybe all silent in this first issue, and then we get part 2 in issue #4, and it's great to see him kind of start exploring that, his more long form storytelling. I think he does a wonderful job. He's got a really great style. It kind of has shades of Tyler Crook and shades of Underwater Welder, his name that I'm blanking on now. It has kind of the feel of that, especially the Tyler Crook stuff, especially when you see. Sorry, say that again.
Jeff Lemire?
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Especially when you see this, his watercolors that adorn the front and the back of issue #4 here. Really, really great. Like, I love this guy. I would love to see a lot more longer works by him. And the new thing that's happening in the newest issues of Crooked Teeth is this Blood and Thunder storyline, which I find so engaging that I hope that when he's finished, somebody puts out a collection. Somebody puts a collection together of it, because it's a fantastic story so far. I have some ideas on where it's going, but it feels like there's still quite a few more issues of it before it wraps up. But his storytelling chops are just getting better. And it's nice to see some of this early stuff where he's kind of exploring that, because you can absolutely find shades of his newer stuff in there. So highly recommended, especially the new stuff. I think he has a newer issue of Crooked Teeth coming out soonish. I'll try to remember to post about it or talk about it. And then the last one that I'll talk about here for this kind of round is Lance Stanton, Wayward Warrior, from Hammock Publications. So this is put out by Floating World and our friends over at Power Comics. They have a YouTube channel. They've done a couple of things. I didn't know what I was going to think of this. This is one that I found for $1 at 204. Man, was I ever wrong. This is such a fun book. The story is fine. There's nothing wrong with the story whatsoever. It moves along good enough. But the art is kind of what really drew me to it. There's these moments. Let me see if I can find. There's these moments like this that are incredible. There's a quality to this that really reminds me of the 60s. It reminds me of, what is the name here? Guy Peel art. It reminds me of like Guy Peel art stuff. Fantagraphics did a collection of Peel art things. This has that kind of 60s characteristic to it. And I love this panel is just phenomenal. The way he's punching, the way this guy is falling, the lettering on that sound effect. Like I enjoyed this 10 times more than I thought I would, because I really didn't have much. I just thought it would be a kind of classic 80s, 86 kind of independent book where it was going to be engaging somewhat, but more kind of like a, oh man, look at this guy early on in his career. This guy has nailed it right from the beginning. This is just I would highly recommend this one. So I got to give shout outs to Power Comics guys for getting this together and putting this out through, and of course Floating World 100%.
So this came out in the 80s originally and has been reprinted, or is it just in the style of?
No, it's been reprinted. So it came out in 1989 originally, and then this new version came out in 2022. It was only one issue, and one of the bonuses with this one is that at the back you get some pages from what was going to be issue number 2. Very, very incomplete. He never did an issue 2, so they got in touch with the artist. They also are selling a Lance Stanton t-shirt as well, which is unbelievable. And then there's a bit of a write-up, so you get a little bit of a write-up as well too from the Power Comics guys. And then at the back you get some of the art that was going to be for issue number 2. Like, look at this thing, man. No dialogue, just the art. I love the look of this. This is, I can absolutely see why they just went nuts for this and figured that this needed a reprint. This is really great. It'll definitely be a creator that I'll look into more. I don't know what else he's done in the 80s or into the 90s. I don't think there was very much that was done, but yeah, this is highly recommended. This is a real blast, as you can tell just by looking through this. Oh, you have a copy of the original as well, Sean. That's amazing. Yeah, so good on them. And they have another collection that they put out. I can't remember. Maybe Sean knows the title of the other one that Power Comics guys put out just recently. And I think they have some more in the works. This is kind of their era. They focus on these 80s comics. So I hope they kind of keep putting this stuff out for a little while. Vendetta, that's what it's called, Rick Gray.
Floating World just kind of the distributor of various tiny publishers, maybe?
Yeah, it seems like they're just Vendetta Holy Vindicator. Thank you, Rick Gray. So I mean, it feels like that's the thing, right? They have these relationships and they're willing to reprint. They also, the Power Comics guys also have a link, I think, with Floating World through what the heck is his name? Someone in the chat is going to tell me. The One Man War on Terror guy again, whose name I'm just drawing a blank on just right in the moment. Anyway, so they're fantastic with doing stuff like this. I hope they keep digging up these things. Very, very surprised. I was absolutely, when it came out, it had this price tag of $6.99 on it, American, which there's no way I was going to, Ben Mara, thank you. There was no way I was going to pay that for it. But finding it in this highly discounted bin, it's like, yeah, absolutely. And after reading it, I probably would have paid $7 for it because it's that good. It's really enjoyable. So yeah, there you go.
His hair looked like a helmet. I could not stop looking at it.
Yeah.
That perfect cut at the top. That was like like that perfect cut they do on the top of it.
With the little bangs up at the top there. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, there's something about his inking though for those characters. Like it's pretty fun. Some of those angles are just out of control. Really, really great.
Yeah.
It reminds me of what was the publisher? AC Comics from the 80s. Had stuff that looked kind of like that. Maybe a little slicker, but
no, AC.
I think it stood for American Comics originally.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
and they tried to make up their own superhero teams and things.
Yeah,
it looks like very much like G.I. Joe could be looking the way G.I. Joe looks in the classic G.I. Joe look. It looks like that kind of type of a character could be. Anyway, and then so me next, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this was on my list because it's a publisher I always like to collect, and Terrence will know that as well. The Vertigo, and of course I don't know why I'm going, and then I knew in expectations how crazy this would be, but I decided to went into realm of Invisibles. Invisibles. I can't even say it properly. Anyway, so. Wow, I have not finished it yet. I'm kind of like more than halfway through, and Jesus, the Grant Morrison's is just gives you a brain just like fires, so many explosions inside, and you're like, what the hell did I just? Well, I'm going through it. It's a absolute. I love, by the way, Boland's back cover here. He's created art. It's beautiful. But the artist at the beginning of a couple of stories is Steve Yoel. So Steve Yoel. Anyway, so that's a great. Jill Thompson is there. Dennis Kramer, Chris Weston, John Ridgway, Steve Parkhouse, and Duncan Fedrigo. So quite a few of the things, but also. Sean Phillips has a couple of the covers in here as well, which is I wasn't even have awareness of that he was doing. But so absolutely mind-boggling things to start to actually start reading. I wasn't thinking it's going to be as trippy, but this is Grant Morrison wants to just shove a lot of ideas at your face with some sort of idea how to tackle the whole things what he's thinking of into one storyline. And it starts making sense. Halfway through this I have not finished this book 1 volume, which contains 12 issues of this the beginning of a story. And I love the art. I love the feel of it. It's perfect Vertigo thing with that kind of. Even they have the same kind of paper, looking not really newspapery, but you know what I mean. So it's kind of like that sense of the thing, but. At first, I got really confused because we set in Liverpool. We see this McKinnon guy who is an interest for the group of Invincibles because of they're going to be kind of defending the Earth from the good and the bad kind of thing. And they are there. Basically, you've got part of the good guys, I presume. And the part, so the team is King Mob. The names now. I should have put some place where I knew what the names are. But there's a group of 5 of them. Yes, 5 of them. So King Mob is the guy who looks exactly like Grant Morrison to me. I'll show you his face. Where is it? Is the beginning of the pages? Yeah. Well, not here. Maybe later stages. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? This guy.
Oh yeah.
So he's bold, kind of thing, but of course more promiscuous, as you would say. But this is the team you have. Fanny, Lady Fanny, a boy. Her name is Boy, or Nick, or the code name, and she is like Robin, some ridiculous Robin, I think, and he is supposed to be Jack Frost. The guy who was the guy he's basically they're trying at the beginning of the story to employ. So he's a youth in Liverpool where nothing happens. There's this scene where by the river where Beatles, like John Lennon, are talking to some other member of the group. So I'm not sure if that was, or it's just what his imagination was saying, because apparently he's a psychic, so he has some sort of abilities he's not yet nurtured into fruition. So because he's so rebellious, he's being kept in this rehabilitation place where this guy is in charge, and that's what basically they do. They kind of completely mutilate you into the point where you become submissive and part of the colony kind of thing. But to his luck, he manages to be escaping, because this is the evil part of this storyline. I don't know how they call them, because they don't disclose the whole information yet. You kind of go with the flow, and I don't really know the name of the bad guys yet. So what they do is basically take part of your brain, I presume, which gets rid of all your emotion, all your like sense of being kind of thing. You just become like a robot type of the thing. And he discovers that, and of course you almost get to be caught, but this person saves them. And I don't know if it tells you the name, who he is. But yeah, he's like an assassin. They keep on telling him, and he's this funny looking kind of like what is that movie? Oh, I forgot the name. I can't. My brain switches off every single time I talk. But anyways, he has this nice, crazy, interesting design created by him. But anyway, so he gets saved, but instead of, and they give him a choice. Do you want to be part of this team? Because he's kind of like not yet of the right age, and he doesn't really understand who he kind of is, or is he going to be able to be taught properly. So what they did, they give him a choice if he wants to join a team or not. But instead he decides to basically go in by himself, and he basically ends up in London being like a homeless guy, really at the brink of basically death, because he's not doing really well. He's kind of sick. He's trying to ask for money, but slowly we have snippets of those characters here, which I did just realize later on, that they were kind of keeping an eye on him to see how he deals with that kind of situation. And he gets into like rage attacks where he basically throws a trash bin into the shop floor, and the copper is chasing behind like him, and he decides like, oh my god, and he gets caught, and this old dude kind of protects him. So what he does is, while he's talking to this cop, and the guy and our main character is right behind him, the copper can't see him somehow, and that's where the bizarreness starts to the full-blown part where you have time traveling, you have magic, you have ideas of the political point of view, what's happening in the world. This is the lady Fanny, I think that's her name, or it's not them, he or she, and the people who's going after them look like a typical ghetto wearing people who hunts for foxes, which is very famous in England. Which is a lot of people are against for, and was banned in England, but it's coming back to being a something where upper class is doing, who has money to do whatever they feel like doing in real life. Anyway, so things happens to him where he basically thinks he smokes this weed in undergrounds of London, and he starts to hallucinate and thinks he's being drugged, and he travels to the future and he's not realizing that because he thinks he's just tripping, and that just goes on, and this explanation to what who's behind it, and it's been happening throughout the eras, and they will be afterwards to show them time travels when they do, and they go into depression era, not depression era, or era where is this time? Come on, NASA. The time of guillotine was in full blown popularity, and that's one of the things. I don't know if they tell you the exact time and era it is at, but like if you are a bit more into the history, you probably would know exactly which one era he's talking to about, and that's how we travels. And this picture, come on, is that Grant Morrison or not? Full blown him. Anyway, so yeah, it's really entertaining, and I can't look away. It's kind of starting to become a bit more grotesque, like dead bodies, the era of the time where people eating this kind of weird masked people in that era eats the body parts of the subhuman on the table. It just gets to the point, and apparently it's going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and that's where I end up being at. But fascinating, and there's quite a few volumes. There's been I think 7 volumes of this. So I mean, I will, if I of course the library is the big help for me, because I've had a couple of issues, some random volumes. I collected it while I was going into a comic mart in that time when I was doing them, but I never went into full blown looking for, because Grant Morrison's always tickles my brain and also frustrates me at quite many levels. But if you I think he would be a great read when you are doing in singles, because you let your brain just to digest exactly what his point of view was or was trying to portray in one single issue, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense, and only makes sense right at the end of a story. So it's quite a long fruition for me, like, because if it's 7 volumes to read, it's quite a long schlep for me to do, to understand what the whole point was of the story to be. But I knew it's like one of the, it says even in the back, it says one of the saying that this is like the story that reinvents comic books in process, thought generation, and reinvent reality to what it exists. And it's basically gives your brain a scratch a little bit to understand your existence, and it's actually true or not, or you're living in the double or triple reality or whatever your mind can perceive. I mean, that's what you get from Grant Morrison's read, and you're like, oh my god, dude, it's crazy. But yeah, it's because of the era and the way it's been done. I love the Vertigo era of that time, especially.
Yeah.
So for me, it's still intrigued. I don't know how far I'm going to get to annoying part, but if it's going to continue, kind of like let you understand what's the whole point of it. So far, the characters are intriguing. The look of them is intriguing. I'm not sure how far it's going to get to whatever the whole point of the story is. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's one that I've never read. But I've always heard people rave about it. So.
Yeah. He's busy doing something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it's been on a like one of the Grant Morrison stuff he done. So as I say, there's lots of back matter for him, what he has done, and so it's one of the other things, like, so I always, when I go to library, I always look something which is what familiar is about whatever I wanted. So, and I was thinking, why not? It's book 1. You rarely catch something which is at the beginning of the storyline.
Right.
So when I saw it, I was like, okay, let's grab it and see. And it is fairly entertaining, but give you a head scratch quite a way through it, because you just have to let the process go through, I guess. Because I remember reading something else from Grant Morrison, I was kind of like, my brain was like, let it go. It's not interesting anymore because it's too much for you to think of.
Yeah.
But if you continue, I was continuously reading it, and then I got the message like, oh, but it takes so long. Why do it take so long to do this? And then you're like, okay, it's entertaining. So
yeah.
But so far, as I say, as intriguing those characters are, I think that's what will probably keep me going, to see, because they haven't been fully introduced yet. And they look absolutely bizarre. Wow, you're getting some of
Yeah, it's totally fine. I'll just block them. We won't pay them no mind.
Oh, anyway.
I always wondered if Invisibles was like the pure Grant
Damien,
Morrison that I ought to read.
Sorry, Damien. If anybody's in the chat that has a wrench, if you could take care of that stuff, it's not letting me block this particular person here. So for
I
some
thought I
reason,
just blocked him. I hid him. Let's
if
see.
somebody has a wrench and can take care, just kind of keep half an eye out.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of the jackasses.
I have hidden him from this channel. I don't know if I can fully get rid of him.
Okay, I'll give it one more try.
That's weird.
Yeah, sometimes it seems to work pretty well on my end here, but not this time. Anyway, well, one
it's
got
not showing in my text window now. I mean,
Okay,
it's all
good, yeah.
gone.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I always thought maybe I was missing out by not reading The Invisibles, that I hadn't gotten the pure Grant Morrison yet.
But he is going like full blown into every twist of what society is all about, why you are there in existence. You know, are you following the media, and why are you following that? And he takes the magic elements, then you takes to history elements, he's taking into then traveling, and then some little nuggets like because wow.
I've just deleted them. I've just deleted them all.
Yeah.
Now another one's back. These are probably Russian bots. That's why.
It's something.
Mm-hmm. And the
you didn't. Okay, Andrew Lopez is saying he didn't see it, so that's great.
Yeah,
perfect.
It keeps. I've hidden it from.
Found The Invisibles in the 5th to be a little too esoteric for my taste, but I adored their Doom Patrol and Animal Man runs. Yeah, Animal Man is another one I've never read either. Probably the odd issue here or there, but that's it.
The Animal Man, there's the omnibus collection keeps coming back, and then and so but will be one of the other things I wanted to read. But this is as wacky as it goes. I kind of wanted to make sure that it's there, like in to see experience it at least, and see after this book one if my brain will say next time if I see something else I want to pick it up. So which relies on too much of name dropping and sound intelligent.
Animal Man is his best, is what Colin is saying.
Animal Man is one of his earliest. He was his first assignment at DC, and sort of take this straight ahead old superhero no one cares about and do something fun with him. But I personally like his that's All-Star Superman is my favorite of his. But.
Right. Yeah, me as well. I love that as well.
But I do like the Animal Man.
And I like Nameless is a fantastic read as well too, but that's partially due to the art, just how intense that book is.
Did you feel satisfied by the end of Nameless? That was my only problem with it.
I did, because it just kind of got more horrific and dark and insane as it went. That I was really digging that one. So yeah.
I wanted something a little more.
I don't know how to do it while we're in the chat, Andrew Lopez, but I will absolutely get that sorted for you next time. But it's a lot to kind of especially on my phone. So I blocked him a number of times, but Mr. Burgles keeps coming back.
I don't know why he keeps coming back, because I've been deleting him from the channel over and over myself.
Yeah.
Oh, look. Somebody is not happy that Andrew is.
So maybe that's a good cue for us to say goodbye for the day. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Burgles. You're the best, and we'll see you next week. So, thanks very much, everybody, for hanging out with us. It was good to see you all. But I'm not sitting here and playing this fucking game all day. So, so we'll see you next week, and. We can have another chat, and we'll see Damien. I think it might be
on my channel next week. Yep.
Cool.
Maybe we'll have some guest stars. Who knows?
Amazing. That'd be fantastic. All right. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll talk to you.
Bye-bye.